Assalamu alaikum, everybody, and thank you for joining us on the final episode of Tea, Tim Tams and Travel with me, myself, Nabil from Rihala, and Elena from the MuslimTravelGirl. Hey, Elena. Walaikum salam.
How are you, Nabil?
Good, good. I'm a little bit
sad.
sad. I'm a bit sad. Yeah, it's been fun, you know. But
yeah, it's been very fun.
But I'm sure we'll come back with something that's even better and bigger. In the future. So to finish off,
I'm happy we stuck to our 3 weeks of isolation.
Yes.
You know, we said we'll do it for 3 weeks while we're in isolation, and then the government went and changed it.
I know. What are we going to do for the next 3 weeks? I don't know. This was to get us through the 3 weeks. So
exactly.
What are we going to do at 10 a.m. every morning? I don't know. But yeah, today, because it's the last one, we thought, okay, let's have a look at how we feel travel's going to change post-COVID. Once we can all have a bit of freedom again, maybe airlines start flying again. So these are completely predictions. Please don't hold us to this. We don't think these are definitely going to happen. But just using our own experience and our own expertise, and obviously our involvement in the industry, we want to share a little bit of that insight with you guys. So Elena, number one, what do you think is going to happen?
I think I'll tell you what I wish it would happen. COVID goes away, everything goes back to what it was, the new normal. Obviously, we lift all these restrictions, and I feel that people will be just freezed in one place, and they will think twice before booking to go somewhere. Just because we've kind of taken all this information about the lockdown and the spread of the virus and everything. And I know that I have trips planned and booked after May, and I'm scared.
Do you think people are generally going to be fearful about booking a trip? and then traveling on that trip, because what happens if you get stuck? What happens if the country goes
Exactly.
into lockdown again?
Exactly. What happens if I've been on lockdown for so long in isolation and I'm perfectly healthy. What happens if I go on a first trip and I still get it? Because I don't believe it's going to just disappear overnight, right? And I personally feel people will be more fearful with traveling in the future or in the near future, maybe 6 months until we forget all about it and we kind of like move on with our lives and our daily things. But I feel that if they open the border, people now I'm seeing on Facebook and on the blogs talking about travel in 2021.
Yeah, I
Not
mean,
many people are traveling in 2020. So
yeah,
they kind of like gonna leave a big gap between their freedom day and their travel day.
yeah. I think this is so unprecedented. I think that people genuinely don't know how to plan for their next trip. Um, I mean, it kind of leads on quite nicely onto my first prediction. So I actually think there's going to be a big change in entry restrictions. I think that countries that we would have normally expected to travel to without a visa, maybe,
Yeah.
we won't be able to do that again for a while, because the impact of COVID in developed countries, Western Europe and the US, has been so severe. I think other countries are going to be quite fearful until a vaccine or until some sort of immunization has been put together and dampens this, of letting in British, French, Spanish, American citizens to come into normal tourism hotspots. Now, it works both ways, of course. Obviously, you know, countries want to have tourism coming in, but do you think maybe I don't know, an immunity passport might help there?
Ooh, that immunity passport really kind of like gets me. I don't know why, but I feel that, and I was gonna ask you that. Do you think how are countries gonna react? Because you said we'll travel differently, and there will be entry restrictions or requirements. But what about with the immunity passport or with the vaccine? Are the countries gonna require that you're vaccinated before you enter?
Maybe
Um,
something similar to like a yellow fever certificate or a meningitis certificate. Um, it could run in the same sense as that. I think it's different to things like maybe Ebola or SARS, because it's quite difficult to get those in comparison to coronavirus and the damage it can do. But I think I mean, from a sort of human rights perspective, is it right to say to
yeah.
person A, you can't come in because you don't have a certificate? Person B, you can come in because you have one, but both people might not have it, or both people might have it. It's a really difficult situation. But
It is. I mean, it reminds me for Umrah, they required vaccination, meningitis vaccination, right?
yeah,
Um, so it's always been one of these questions where people ask, do I have to have it? And is there a requirement? Because a lot of people don't believe in vaccines, or
yeah,
they don't want to do it for religious reasons, or because there are some ingredients in the vaccines, whatever that reason is. And then it kind of gets me. I mean, I'm not anti-vaccine, but I'm it's your kind of like rights, like, okay, I'm going to have an immunity passport. Do I have to get all the vaccines?
yeah,
Because then it's going to be, okay, we have one for COVID, then do we need one for meningitis, for example,
yeah,
if people haven't had meningitis before? So it kind of like, it's scary because I guess it's unprecedented
yeah. I
of
think
of
if it maintains the freedom of movement and it does it effectively, I'm for it. I would
you.
say if it gets to a point where we can immunize against it, purely because of the chaos that it can cause. I think this is unlike anything before. So that's number two. What's
What
your
about your travel insurance?
travel insurance? Well,
What do you think is going to happen with that?
oh, travel insurance.
Is travel insurance going to require an immunity passport and be like, well, in order for you to get insured, you
Yeah,
have to have a
and
vaccine?
also, let's talk about the situation that tens of hundreds of thousands of people have been put in now, and people are still stuck abroad, where travel insurance plays no part in this. It doesn't come under the cover unless you specifically got cover for pandemic coverage, which nobody has. You are not covered for this. So, A, is there any purpose for travel insurance anymore if it's not going to cover you for anything, such as this when you actually need it? And B, is it going to get more expensive?
It's a valid question. I mean, will it get more expensive?
For sure. I have a funny feeling it's gonna increase. I think because of the threat of potential claims, with getting stranded abroad, being delayed on your flights, etc. I think it could do. But for me, as a company, we always encourage our clients to get travel insurance, because it doesn't just cover you against a lost suitcase. It covers you in case you get ill. So medical costs obviously can run into the hundreds of thousands if you're not careful. So not anti-travel insurance, but it'll be interesting to see how travel insurance changes.
Yeah, because if you remember a few years ago, when was it? Four years ago, when we were in the Islamic Economy Forum, I got sick in Dubai and I got hospitalized at that time. And thank God I had travel insurance. I always recommend travel insurance. I know many people are kind of, especially in the Islamic, because we don't have an Islamic insurance, but 100% we do need insurance. My only thing with travel insurance now is there's so many small prints. We had the volcano eruptions, and now we're going to have the pandemic. And it's like every time something gets cut out, it's like, oh, you should have a pandemic insurance. I mean, come on, who buys a pandemic insurance?
Exactly.
On that scale. So
I'm pretty sure most insurance companies probably didn't even have it as an option.
exactly.
It was so specialist to be able to get that. So yeah, I think that's going to change, going forward. We'll have to see. But how do you find, I mean, what would your next prediction be? I'm thinking along the lines of like how you use all the benefits we had, before 2020, like traveling on points. How do you think that's going to change?
So this is unprecedented, obviously, but I'll go by recession. And during the previous recession that they had, there were much bigger opportunities, because once the recession is out, credit card companies, for example, were more enticing towards new customers. So they will offer more points. Airlines will offer a better price. We had some, like 7 years ago, there were tickets for business class, for example, for £700-800. These are things that hopefully will come back if we're optimistic. Maybe not in 2020, maybe 2021. But we can see already in the news that actually credit card companies are closing down offers at the moment.
Yeah.
They're not accepting anymore. They're pulling out points from airlines. I mean, BA got degraded. The US government, the airlines wanted a bailout. Now they said, well, you know what? Loyalty programs are very lucrative for airlines. And the fact that they have so much money they can bet against, because points are essentially money for people and for companies.
And I think the currency of points that you have now is probably going to be worth more than your future earnings on points. I have a funny feeling that the current, like if you were to earn 1 point in a year's time, it's probably going to be worth less than what you earned it for last year, because I mean, it leads on to my next point in terms of what's happening with airfares. Airfares, in my opinion, and looking at it from what's happening with what airlines are coming out with, I think we're due for a big increase in airfares, because they're going to have to make the money back somehow, right? With no flights going for say 2-3 months, they're going to have to make their money at some point. They might not do it straight away, because I think there's going to be a huge amount of people that will want to travel. I think the floodgates are going to open once people can travel. Once that initial sort of enthusiasm has started to dissipate, I can really see them turning the screws a little bit on airfares.
What about the fact that we're not going to have the routes? I mean, we're just saying that the prediction from Bloomberg I was reading today was that the BA route capacity and the same route they had will be to full capacity by 2023 again. So
Amazing,
what
isn't it?
airline like Lufthansa cut out so many flights.
Yeah.
Are they going to go back to normal, or are we going to be like, oh, we want to go to, I don't know, Santorini, for example, and there are no flights anymore direct there that were before?
It'll be interesting to see how, let's say, BA come back, let's say this year or next year. Do they just put their core routes on, like the west coast of the US, east coast of the US, and maybe Dubai and some of the Far East destinations? Or do they maintain some of those new routes that they wanted to bring out? I mean, we've got a trip booked into Mexico City in September, and if they change the aircraft type, if they change the frequency of that particular route, it will change our plans. So, I think there's a lot of ambiguity in terms of what's happening with the airlines post-COVID. 2023 is a long time away, but it doesn't surprise me.
For me, it's kind of like, I don't know, I feel sad because people obviously want to make plans, and there's so many unknowns, even giving the airlines, and what options are they're going to be later. I mean, I was looking at flights the other day, and I was looking for my mom to come, and it was from Sofia to Manchester, and she had to take 3 flights that cost £500 in total.
Wow.
To come from Sofia to Manchester. And I was like, this is ridiculous. And I was talking to mom, I was like, 15 years ago when I moved to the UK, this was the case.
Yeah.
Because there were no routes, there wasn't demand. Now there's 3 or 4 flights a day for £50 one way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, we're gonna go back 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have all these issues with like direct flights.
Yeah. Possibly, quite possibly. Okay, let's go with one final one, and I think this is one that we can probably both share on. How would you pack differently? Because I'm going to be thinking of all sorts of different things now when I pack. Just in case something happens. That's just my nature. For goodness sake.
So what would you pack in your suitcase that you wouldn't pack normally?
See, I made a mistake about a few years ago. I made a rookie mistake. I left my glasses in my suitcase, right? And I was flying into Fez, and Ryanair thankfully left my bag at Stansted. So I had no contact lenses, I had no glasses, and it was Christmas Eve, and the next flight was 4 days away. So I learned that one really hard because I was walking around Morocco, half blind. So I've always had it in me to be a little bit more cautious. Now, I don't know. I mean, now for me, I think it's important I don't think it's necessary to pack extra clothes, for example, because, that's added weight that you can potentially not use. And I don't think it's probably a very smart way to sort of prepare for it, but essentials are really important. So for example, if you need medication, take a little bit extra just to see you through. Make sure that, you have all your relevant chargers if you need them, because they can be quite awkward to get if you want to keep in touch with family at home. I mean, those are probably my 2 go-to things. How about yourself?
A face mask and sanitizers. Well, I don't worry so much about myself these days. Like, and it's something you're right, because I was putting the baby to sleep, and I was thinking, if I go to Greece in the summer, that's my first trip after COVID, hopefully. Inshallah. What am I gonna pack for the baby? Like, what is really gonna go in my suitcase? And I think for me, the most important things will be things to see me through in a long, like if I have to stay longer. And I think a better financial planning will be in place.
Yeah, definitely.
Of the things that I would pack. A better travel insurance probably that will cost me much more now.
Yeah.
Will be another one. I am always the type of person that after my student days where I was broke and traveling for like £5 and I didn't care whether I'm going to have money to buy a ticket. I'm always a little bit more careful to kind of like have an extra big amount on a credit card allowance, for example, if I get stranded somewhere.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
about
just
preparing, maybe being a bit more prepared rather than
exactly.
packing something differently. But you know, that whole preparation, I think, will start from when you start planning the trip. Suddenly your budget for a trip is probably going to have maybe another 20% to it, just in case something happens.
You know, Nabil, I haven't told you, but a friend of mine is stuck in Las Vegas for the past 3 weeks.
At the Bellagio?
And no, Vegas is closed. He keeps moving hotels because every single hotel is closed.
Okay.
In Vegas.
Okay.
But this is because the flights get canceled. There is no way out of the country. Everything's on lockdown.
Yeah.
And he obviously doesn't have a travel, like he has a travel insurance, which I told him hopefully will reimburse him, but I doubt now. But he has to have the money in his bank account to pay for his hotel until he manages to go home.
But even Airbnb have stopped taking bookings till the middle of April, haven't they?
Thankfully, he found another hotel somewhere that accepts bookings.
Yeah.
And he's very happy about all the points he's going to get from the hotels. But it's still £100 extra a night that, you know, he's stranded and he doesn't know for how long. So preparing, okay, obviously might not be a pandemic, but having a little bit extra cash.
And it's probably worth, and you know, for us, obviously being a travel company, we always endorse people to book with an agent. And sometimes in these situations, you might feel that maybe your agent's not helping because, you know, the airline's saying one thing and the hotel is saying one thing. But, you know, this is a learning curve for us as well. And one thing that we're putting into place is, okay, so, you know, we've got somebody stuck somewhere. How do we react to that situation? And, you know, I think for us as a company, you know, we want to provide, you know, all of our clients with that reassurance that, look, if you get stuck, you're not on your own, because that's probably the worst feeling that you could have, is that you're stuck and you don't know where to go. And you know, I think that's for a lot of us to learn. So certainly from our perspective, we'll be making, you know, having a good think about how we can support our clients further.
And I guess this is a very valid point, because as a person who I normally don't book, you know, I'm a DIY person, I might consider booking more through travel agents just for the added safety net, or the person who can talk to the airline for me while I'm stuck abroad and I don't have credits on my Skype or something.
But I think so, as somebody that, you know, as yourself, and I do a lot of DIY travel myself, I think that it's still important to plan, like you said, have a, you know, if you want to do it DIY, absolutely fine. And I think there's so much joy in traveling on the whim, or you know, doing that research. There's so much joy in it. Just add this extra little bit into your planning, and you know, if you're able to do that, brilliant.
Yeah, fantastic.
Cool.
Thank you very much for that.
Awesome. Well, I think
I am very happy that we did this series.
I
have
too.
to say.
Me too. This is.
I had so much fun.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun over the. A shame we don't have an outtakes. I should have kept all the outtakes, and you know, maybe on the next one.
All the outages.
Yeah, all the outages. Yeah, all the IT problems that we've had. But Elena, thank you. It's been great. And everybody, we're going to leave the competition up for another few days till Monday. What's the date today? 10, 11, Monday the 14th.
Make sure you sign up.
So Easter Monday, right? We're going to leave it up until then. Feel free to enter, and we'll pick another winner and let them know next week. Keep an eye out on both of our Instagram profiles. Elena is at the MuslimTravelGirl. Is it at MuslimTravelGirl? The MuslimTravelGirl. Yeah. And we are at Halal Travel. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you everybody for who's watched us.
Thank you so much for watching.
We'll be back with more soon. Take care.